So, in today's society, as sad as it may be, it has become normal for fathers to be absent from their child's life, and it's for various reasons. Drug abuse, being in jail, or the fact that the parents just got divorced and they send a check and they're like, well, that'll be how I feel in my relationship because they think they're making a contribution. And this is what I went through as a kid. So, and that's part of the reason why I feel so strongly about the issue, and it happens every day. And that is why I love to see action be put in front of the problem, and we'll get to that later. So I'm here today to talk to you about how kids are affected by their fathers not being in their lives and how there is something that we can do about it. So children who grow up without a father are more likely to participate in illegal activity. So according to Dr. Edward Kirk, 85% of the youth that are in jail grow up without fathers. So they're just really angry and rebellious that they don't have a father in their lives, and especially if one has been there and then they left, so they begin to rebel and act in criminal activity. And most of the crimes include property delinquency or harm to others. And the fatherless generation states that most crime participation comes from boys rather than girls, which is not very shocking. And seeing as how boys become more violent as a result of the issue of not having their dad because they don't have someone there to hold them accountable. So while growing up fatherless affects both boys and girls, it does have an effect on them in different ways. So the fatherless generation suggests that girls are 71% more likely to get pregnant as teenagers because they don't have a father in their lives. So girls don't have their dads to protect them from boys and being involved sexually, so they don't, how dads are there like, a boy's not going to treat you that way. They don't have that. And this leads to them being sexually active early on as teenagers and most likely to become pregnant as well. And boys are affected because their dad not being there because they learn how to be a man. So it's very common to see boys too, like whenever they grow up, for them to act the same way as their dad. They'll get married, have kids, and then they'll follow in their parents' footsteps. And they just, whenever they grow up, they just want to see approval from their father or to know that they're doing the right thing. And then there's a greater effect on boys instead of girls. And so many things happen due to not having a dad, and girls are more likely to have a baby before they get married and are likely to not have successful marriages also. My mom's an example. My mom didn't have her dad whenever she grew up, and she's had 4 marriages, and the dads haven't been there. So it can become a pattern. So in most cases, fathers are just absent. However, we cannot blame this solely on fathers just not wanting to be there. In custody battles, the court almost always rules in favor of the mother, no matter what. So this notion really stems from earlier generations where the mother's supposed to raise the child, and then the dads are supposed to work. So, and that's why most of them rule in favor of the mother. So according to the Institute for Family Studies, only 16.1% of single households are ran by fathers. And that was kind of a bigger percentage than I thought it would be. But a lot of dads will have their kids, custody of them, and then they'll remarry, mostly because they can't do it on their own. But some of them do have their kids, but they're just not the only one in the household. So while there's been this set idea in the courts that mothers are the ones in charge of the kids, they have evolved some, and some will give shared custody, or some will do what the custody said for my parents. My dad was able to see me, but the visits that he had were to be supervised by someone that they ordered for them to be supervised by. So growing up without a father figure doesn't only affect the child's action and quality of life, but it also has an effect on their education and how far that they'll make it in school. So the Institute for Family Studies says that students with involved fathers are 98% more likely to graduate college. And having the support of a good father helps encourage those who even decide to go to college and push through and make a better life for themselves. And while the rate for not completing is high, some students do overcome the odds and end up completing their education. Like me, I graduated high school with honors, and now I'm in the honors program at Dalton State. And my mother as well, she didn't have a good father. She did go back and get her GED because like the statistics say, she did get pregnant at 16 and she got married. So she wasn't able to finish high school, but she went back and got her GED and she ended up going to college. So now, before I tell my conclusion and everything, what do you guys have an opinion on the situation? Like, what your thoughts are?
I do think it's interesting that regardless of the character of the mother, the higher percentage of times the mother gets custody, regardless of the situation, and that is a very common thing, like you mentioned, happens. My parents are divorced, my dad wasn't around, and I'm kind of an anomaly, whereas I didn't take the path that a lot of guys do, but I've seen where more often than not, the mom is not able to make up for it where my mom was able to, and so a lot of times guys will go down a path that's a lot more like damaging to them as a person and to society in general, because the results of their actions and decisions kind of stem from this kind of lack of having a dad around. So I would definitely agree with everything you said.
Yeah. It's all been really good. I don't really have much to comment on it, but for me, I had two parents who were very committed to each other and pouring into me in my life, and so I definitely see all the benefits that I've had to have a dad in my life, my whole life. And so hearing this is also heartbreaking, and I think for me, I didn't realize all the percentages, and I did to a certain extent, but it's really interesting hearing about it, and then just also, I don't know, it tugs on my heart a little bit more. It's so important to have dads in their kids' lives, but also have their moms involved too.
So as you can see, children being fatherless becomes a real issue, and there is a solution that can help before it even gets started. And so we as citizens, we as bridge builders, as Christ followers, can better our society and future generations by letting the men know how important it is to be active in their children's lives, because they may not even realize how bad it does have an effect. So my suggestion was to set up an annual event or a once a month class that would be for new and expecting fathers, and even those that are struggling to participate in their kids' lives, and just show them how important it is, because not only would this benefit the lives of those affected, it would benefit us as a society. Crime rates and the rate of teenage pregnancies would decrease, and more kids would graduate high school, graduate college, or even go to college. So to conclude, this is an issue that sits obviously very close to my heart, and I've had to experience growing up without a father myself since I was 5. So, and while I was doing the research, I was like, I can see where some of this ties in to my life. I can see where some of it has an effect on me. So the idea that I've presented is very simple, however it can help resolve a big issue and potentially save lives. So